Skol Nation, Day 2 of Minnesota Vikings training camp in Eagan delivered the single most anticipated competitive moment of this entire offseason, and it did not disappoint. Justin Jefferson, operating with a capable quarterback throwing him the football for the first time in over a year, looked like the best wide receiver on the planet. Not the best wide receiver in this division. Not one of the best receivers in the NFC. The best wide receiver on the entire planet. And the specific way that Kyler Murray is already unlocking dimensions of this offense that have been sitting dormant through the most difficult stretches of the past 2 seasons tells you everything you need to know about why this specific pairing has genuine potential to be genuinely special in a way that goes well beyond what the talent evaluation alone would have predicted. Let us start with what Jefferson specifically showed on Day 2, because the detail matters as much as the headline. This was not Jefferson catching balls on shallow routes underneath a soft zone in controlled conditions. What multiple reporters noted specifically was Jefferson winning competitive one-on-one matchups in shadow with any single coverage technique. But the specific play that generated the most genuine buzz from Day 2 observers was a route concept that Murray and Jefferson appeared to have worked on extensively in the weeks before training camp opened. Jefferson aligned outside, released inside at the snap, drew the safety rotation with his vertical stem, and then broke back outside on a flag route that the safety had already vacated. Murray, reading the safety rotation before the snap and confirming it at the moment Jefferson made his break, delivered the football in stride with an arc and a touch that put it outside Jefferson's frame and away from the trailing cornerback simultaneously. That play, requiring the quarterback to anticipate a specific position, reflected something real about the momentum being built between them. The broader offensive picture from Day 2 reinforced the emerging training camp narrative about how much better this offense is already flowing compared to anything this fan base watched in 2025. The specific quality that multiple reporters emphasized was tempo. The offense moved with a decisiveness and a rhythm between snaps that comes from a quarterback who processes the defense quickly enough that the huddle-to-snap sequence feels natural and efficient rather than labored. Murray gets to the line, identifies the coverage, makes or does not make his protection adjustment, and gets the ball snapped without the kind of prolonged pre-snap deliberation that reflects uncertainty about what he is seeing. That tempo, when it is genuine rather than artificially imposed, reflects a quarterback operating within a level of cognitive comfort that makes everything else downstream of the snap easier and more consistent. Jordan Addison's Day 2 performance added a dimension to the receiver conversation that went beyond simply catching the football cleanly. What observers specifically highlighted was Addison running routes with the kind of precise route timing that reflects deep system knowledge rather than simply athletic talent. When the timing between a receiver's break and the quarterback's release is calibrated correctly, the ball arrives at exactly the moment the receiver's body and the coverage situation are maximally aligned for a productive completion. When that timing is off by even a fraction of a second, the completion either does not happen or happens in a more contested situation than the concept was designed to create. Addison and Murray showed Day 2 calibration on multiple specific route concepts that typically takes several weeks of training camp and preseason work to establish between a quarterback and a receiver who have not previously played together extensively. The implication is that both players were doing significant individual timing work before training camp opened, and that the work is showing up immediately in live competitive settings. Jauan Jennings, in his second day of full training camp participation as a Minnesota Viking, continued to generate exactly the kind of competitive impact in team drills that his specific skill set projects most clearly in analytical models, but that sometimes fails to transfer cleanly to live practice competition. Jennings transfers cleanly. His contested catch situations in team periods were genuinely competitive, affairs where the defensive back covering him had a legitimate chance to disrupt the play and simply did not because Jennings's hands and his body positioning are strong enough to win the physical battle at the catch point, even when the alignment and the timing create something close to a 50-50 ball. That specific ability to win contested catches in practice, not just in drills designed to isolate his catching skill against controlled competition, but in genuine team periods where the defense is trying to stop him, is the validating evidence that makes the offseason projection about his value to this offense feel genuinely real rather than simply analytical. The defensive observation from day 2 that generated the most genuine organizational excitement involved Diamond Dallas Turner and what he showed in his first competitive team drills of training camp as a player, entering year 3 with veteran edge rushing company alongside him for the first time in his career. Turner's pass rushing has always had the first step quickness and the natural instincts that make him genuinely dangerous in one-on-one situations. What has sometimes been inconsistent is his ability to convert that quickness into sustained pressure when the offensive lineman initially accounts for his most direct rush path and forces him to demonstrate a counter. On day 2, Turner showed a counter move, an inside spin following an initial outside speed rush that caught the offensive lineman mid-weight transfer and created a clean path to the quarterback. That is not simply physical ability. That is technical development, and it reflects exactly the kind of refinement that a player makes between year 2 and year 3 in an established defensive system under consistent coaching from the same coordinator and position coach. Haason Reddick's day 2 presence was the one that generated the most genuine interest from observers who were specifically watching for signs of whether the extended, competitive absence would show up in his physical preparation or his practice demeanor. The early indicator from day 2 was genuinely positive on both fronts. Reddick was moving with the kind of explosive first-step quickness in individual drills that reflects a player who has maintained his physical conditioning regardless of not playing competitive football in 2025. And his demeanor on the practice field, specifically his engagement between reps with the defensive line coaching staff and his communication with Turner about alignments and the specific rush concepts they are being asked to execute within Flores' scheme, reflected a player who is genuinely present and genuinely invested rather than simply going through the motions of early training camp work. The Caleb Banks update from day 2 was significant specifically because it clarified the timeline for his full practice participation in a way that should give this fanbase genuine optimism about having him available and fully integrated into the defensive system before the regular season begins. Banks participated in individual drills on day 2 and appeared to be moving with no visible limitation related to the foot injury that kept him off the field throughout the entire off-season program. The organizational plan appears to be managing his integration into full team periods carefully over the first 2 weeks of camp before clearing him for full competitive participation ahead of the first preseason game. That timeline, if it holds, gives Banks roughly 3 weeks of competitive team period work before the pads come on and the physical demands intensify, which should be sufficient preparation for him to contribute meaningfully in the preseason and arrive at the regular season opener with real NFL competitive experience in this specific defensive scheme. The Jordan Mason observation from day 2 was the one that generated the most genuine excitement among fans following the running back competition closely. Mason took a specific handoff in team drills and made a decision at the line of scrimmage that reflected both the vision and the patience that distinguish elite running backs from players who are simply physically capable of producing in the run game. He saw an initial opening, allowed his blockers one additional beat to create a cleaner running lane, and then hit the crease at full speed rather than bouncing outside when the secondary lane seemed to present itself. The decision to trust the designed running lane and be patient with it rather than taking what looked like a quicker immediate gain reflects the kind of running back intelligence that coaches describe as being hard to teach and even harder to fully develop. Mason has it, and it showed on day 2 of training camp in a situation specifically designed to test that quality. Kevin O'Connell's Day 2 press availability covered the Kyler Murray decision in more detail than his initial announcement had allowed, and the specific things he said about what drove the evaluation deserve real engagement from this fan base. He was direct about the fact that the gap between Murray and McCarthy in practice throughout OTAs and mandatory minicamp had been consistent rather than variable. That it was not simply about which player had one outstanding day or one outstanding week, but about which player was consistently operating at a higher competitive level across the full body of evidence the coaching staff accumulated. He also said something that should matter to McCarthy's supporters within this fan base. He said the evaluation of McCarthy was genuinely positive and that what he showed this offseason suggests a player who is developing in the right direction rather than a player who has demonstrated he cannot compete at the required level. The nuance matters. Murray won because he was better right now, not because McCarthy showed he could not get there. The overall picture from the first 2 days of Vikings training camp is one that genuinely exceeds even the optimistic expectations that the offseason analysis had generated. This team is flowing. The quarterback looks genuinely capable of unlocking the offensive talent surrounding him. The defensive line has new energy and new purpose under Ryan Nielsen's coaching. The receiver room looks every bit as dangerous in live competitive settings as the analytical models suggested it would be on paper. And the organizational alignment around what this team is trying to accomplish this season, from the front office to the coaching staff to the veteran players who are setting the daily standard, feels genuine and unified rather than manufactured for public consumption. Skol Nation, Day 2 of training camp is delivering everything this fan base hoped for heading into this summer. Drop your reactions in the comments section right now. Is this the best Justin Jefferson has looked in a training camp setting since the 2022 Kirk Cousins season? How many games are the Vikings going to win in the 2026 regular season? And what is your honest confidence level that this offense finishes top 5 in the NFL by the end of the year with Murray and Jefferson operating together at full steam? Drop everything you have got in the comments section below, hit that like button, and subscribe to the channel because we are right here for every single day of training camp, and this is going to be one to remember. Skol Vikings. Let's go get it.